With the NBA lottery taking place last night, the future of many teams around the league have changed with the simple scramble of some ping pong balls. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the winners and losers of last night's draft lottery. But before we get into today's video, I want to thank you guys for your continued support on this channel. We actually just hit 200 subscribers, and if you guys are new here and enjoy NBA content, consider subscribing. I upload every single day. Let's start with the three biggest winners of last night's lottery. The first winner has to be the Minnesota Timberwolves. Although the Timberwolves were tied for the best odds at the number 1 overall pick, along with the Golden State Warriors and Cleveland Cavaliers, landing the number 1 overall pick will give this team a huge boost. After trading for D'Angelo Russell at the trade deadline, the Timberwolves now get to add another top pick to their roster. The pick that I think makes the most sense here is Anthony Edwards. Defense will obviously be the main question mark going into next season for this team, but an offense that gets to add the top scorer in college basketball from last season to go along with the best offensive center in the game and a crafty point guard, this will be a very deadly trio. Arguably the biggest winner from the lottery last night, though, was the Charlotte Hornets. Before the Hornets moved up into the top 4, they had just a 6% chance of landing the 3rd overall pick. That 6% ended up working out in their favor, though, after they moved up from the number 8 pick to the number 3 pick. Honestly, at first, I was kind of disappointed in Charlotte getting a top pick, because they aren't the best team and they don't have a good track record of good management decisions. But after I thought about it for a little while, I was happy that Charlotte now has the chance to select one of the top players in this year's draft almost a year after losing Kemba Walker in free agency. I'm not too sure there's a pick that makes the most sense for the Hornets, but I do have a good feeling that we could be either seeing LaMelo Ball or James Wiseman in a Hornets uniform come next season. The final winner of last night's lottery is nobody other than the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls were the other team that benefited from multiple teams slipping under their projected slots. Chicago, who has drafted in the 7th overall slot for the last 2 seasons, was back in the 7th spot this year, but they managed to move up to the number 4 pick in this year's draft. After the Bulls picked up Nuggets executive Arturas Karnisovas to become the team's new vice president of basketball operations and fired Jim Boylan, the Bulls may have finally just turned this team around, adding a top 4 pick from this year's draft to a roster that already includes borderline all-star Zach LaVine, rising star Kobe White, and a young frontcourt duo of Lauri Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr., this team could make the playoffs as early as next season. Now let's get on to the 3 biggest losers of last night's draft lottery. Let's start with what seems like the yearly loser every year, that being the New York Knicks. We all know what happened last year. The Knicks had the number 1 overall odds, and the Zion Williamson jersey swaps flooded Twitter. But the team ended up falling to the 3rd spot in last year's draft, where they eventually drafted RJ Barrett. Same thing happened this year, except the Knicks had the 6th best odds at the number 1 overall pick. But they ended up moving down once again and will select at the 8th overall slot in this year's draft. This lottery curse has always been a thing for the Knicks, and as much as I wanted to see LaMelo Ball play his home games in Madison Square Garden next season, the Knicks won't be sniffing him unless they decide to trade up. Another team that took a huge loss last night, in my opinion, was the Detroit Pistons. Out of every single team in the lottery, the Pistons might have the worst overall roster. They needed a big jump last night to land them a franchise piece and somebody that they can really start to build around. But they ended up falling to the 6th pick after having the 5th best odds at the number 1 pick, right behind Atlanta. Detroit may be another team that will be aggressive to move up in order to land a significant franchise-changing player, since I don't think they have one on their roster right now. The last loser of the lottery last night, and the team that took the biggest fall, was the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs, who were tied with the Warriors and Timberwolves for the best odds at the number 1 overall pick this year, ended up falling to the 5th pick in this year's draft. I really don't know who the Cavs will pick come October, but after the team won just 19 games last year, to go from the number 1 overall best odds to the 5th overall pick hurts very bad. Luckily though, unlike Detroit, this team has some key pieces they can build around in guys like Colin Sexton and Kevin Porter Jr. I still don't know what they're going to end up doing with the fit between Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, but I think that whoever they select in this year's draft will just be another piece that they can add on to their future. And that's the video, guys. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for future content just like this, as well as let me know who you guys think were the biggest winners and losers of last night's draft lottery. Also, keep your eye out. I will be dropping my first mock draft now that the draft lineup is pretty much set to this point, so be sure to look out for that, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.